This is Andre Touchy-Feely. You're listening to the Verbal Scrap Podcast. Let's get weird.
This is the Shark, Anthony Avila. You're listening to Verbal Scrap.
This is Justin, the Raw Deal Basement. You're listening to Verbal Scrap.
This is Nan Fan, and you're listening to the Verbal Scrap Podcast. I'm a fighter. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to fight.
Hey, this is Dave Hirschbein, MMA Gold, and you're listening to the Verbal Scrap.
I've worked so hard to do what I got to do in here. I took so much blood for this sport. I took so much pain, everything for the sport.
Hey, y'all, this is Zeke Johnston. You're listening to SRMMA.com Verbal Scrap. Stay tuned. They got some good stuff coming up.
It's JWA from SRMMA.com. We're here on the Verbal Scrap Podcast talking to lethal Luis Gonzalez, fresh off your World Series of Fighting 4 victory over Antonio McKee. How's life treating you lately, my friend?
It's been good and just got time to relax and get fat. So.
Well, what kind of food you been scarfing down your face in the meantime?
Everything. I'm not picky at all. I eat everything.
Well, like I said, you're fresh off World Series of 4. You fought Antonio McKee. What did you first think about the matchup when it was originally announced?
I knew it was a big opponent, but just World Series of Fighting, being on a big stage, nobody's going to be easy from now on. So, it was a great fight for me to show that, I can compete with the big boys. So.
Well, yeah, Antonio McKee, he's well respected. I mean, not a finisher of sorts, but I mean, he's obviously a game opponent, being able to grind out those decisions. After the bout, he retired, which is interesting. But I wanted to ask you first about the bout itself. It reportedly ended with third round illegal blow. I mean, could you go through what actually happened, what your thought process was during that time?
Yeah, like in the second round, and they had warned me about a 12-6, but I was on top of them the whole time. Landing strikes, trying for chokes, and I was leaning over, throwing some elbows. But as he leaned up, it kind of turned it 12-6, and the ref warned me about that one. And then going into the third period, I came out, and he was kind of covering up. I was trying to land some strikes through him covering up, and just one strike, one of my elbows came down, and he, I felt like he turned away, and it was an accidental back to the head, and the ref stopped it and told me to go to the corner. So. Well,
besides the finish, what did you think about Antonio during the fight? I mean, what were some dangerous positions you were in? What were you hoping to accomplish?
The first round was probably the worst positions I've ever been in. Like, I was talking to people I've never been. The first time being full mounted, first time having a choke in deep like that, and he had it tight, and I just knew I just got to keep fighting. And I've been there before. Rear naked choke. Being a wrestler, growing up with the rear naked choke, I know how to defend that and know how to fight that pretty well. But there was a couple times he had it pretty tight, so it was. For a while, I was even a little worried. So,
well, I wanted to ask you, what did it mean to you to get signed with World Series of Fighting and have a contract with those guys, especially considering they're expanding? And I mean, they're still young in their career, but as an organization, they're signing big name guys, putting on nationally televised events.
It was great. First off, it was just word of mouth, just what I've heard about them. But actually getting to experience being there, everything was legit. Everything was done. Great, like any other big show, even my manager and people that have been around the big show, said they did everything like all the other big shows do, and the event was nice. Just hopefully next time, my fight will be on NBC where everyone can watch it, on TV.
Well, after the bout with McKee, he retired. Obviously, he said beforehand he would retire if he lost to you. But when he did retire in the video, he had some really kind words for you. He said that you were kind of the new crop of guy coming up. He felt like even though he lost, he felt like you were a really strong opponent, and the guys like you are slowly taking over the scene. I mean, if you hadn't heard his words, what do you think about what McKee's opinion was of you after the bout?
I've heard a couple things he said during the interview. I didn't listen to it myself. He seemed really cool. It was kind of awkward because even at weigh-ins or the day before weigh-ins, he came up to me and was actually like talking to me, and I thought he was going to say a couple words, and then all of a sudden we're having a conversation. And he was actually really cool and laid back. Real nice guy. He seemed like a good sport. So.
Well, I wanted to ask you about some future matchups. You definitely are going to be in World Series for a while. They got a lot of lightweight talent. I wanted to ask you a couple guys what you think that their strengths and weaknesses are as far as fighters that World Series has been able to sign. I first wanted to start with Tyson Griffin, born in Sacramento, so been one of my favorites growing up. 2-2 in his last 4 fights. Obviously, he lost his last bout, but he's still in the division. I mean, do you think a potential matchup with him would be advantageous to you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's so many people I can get matched up with in this league. You know, they got a bunch of big names. I would rather have, keep going up and try to have somebody that's coming off of a win, instead of a loss. But I mean, if they matched me up with him, I mean, that'd be fine because he's a tough opponent, another big name. So, but I would rather have somebody that's coming off of a win my next fight.
Well, Griffin, the guy he just lost to, Jay-Z Cavalcante, 17-7. He's also 2-2 in his last 4, but like you said, he got the win over Griffin. I mean, what do you think about him as an opponent? He's been around for quite some time. Got 6 KOs, 8 subs. I mean, he's been doing his due diligence as far as finishing opponents.
Yeah, actually, I never even. I'm not the biggest MMA junkie in the world. I know like the very top of the top guys. So actually, this was my first time ever meeting with him or seeing him fight. And but
he was also on the World Series of 4 card, right?
Yeah, he fought on the same card as I did, so I got to watch him live. Yeah, he's a tough guy, a good striker. I think I actually do well with people that are good strikers and not other great wrestlers. My more tougher fights have been against other great wrestlers because it seems like the first round always turns into a wrestling match, and most of the time they're boring first rounds. I know that, and then after that you start picking them apart and start figuring out where the strikes come in. But I tend to do well with stand-up guys, and I think he's more of a stand-up guy. So.
Well, I had 2 more fighters I want to ask you about, but you brought up a really interesting point, not being so much of an MMA junkie yourself. Surprisingly, a lot of fighters, they're not necessarily up to date on everything that's happening in the MMA scene. And for fans, that's kind of a surprise. But really, I mean, you guys are busy training. You got your own lives. Could you explain kind of the difficulties with training and how hard it is for you to stay up to date with what's going on in the MMA world?
Yeah, I mean, just the bigger shows, you know who like the top 3-4 guys are. I got buddies that know like guys in the smaller region, and I'm just like, I don't know how you know all these guys. I can't keep up with it with training, and I got a lot of other stuff going on in my life. I got a kid, so it's I can't pay attention to everything. So.
But do you think that fighting UFC guys is beneficial for your career if you want to move into the UFC?
Yeah, I mean, I was excited just to fight even Antonio, just somebody being from the UFC, because everyone knows, that's, been around forever, and people seem to pay attention to that league the most. So just fighting somebody that's made it, to the UFC, that draws a little bit more attention.
Well, for the fans that that are maybe like yourself, not so much into the backgrounds of these guys, can you tell us more about what your background is, how you got into the sport? I mean, a lot of these guys have a lot of different stories. Is it a competition that got you into it? Do you have a difficult background that kind of pushed you towards it? I mean, what exactly got you into the sport itself?
Yeah, just growing up, I had 2 older brothers, so I got in a lot of 2 older brothers. We were all wrestlers. I had a dad that was a wrestling coach. So along with, growing up as a wrestler and me and my brothers, fighting since we were kids, getting in fist fights in the house all the time, we had a pretty tough family, growing up. Just kind of after high school, I just, wrestled, a year at JC. And then, as I was wrestling JC, I just noticed a couple of guys that I grew up wrestling with that were being very successful in the sport. And, and just the place I was working at the time there was an MMA gym across the street. And I went over there and I talked to the trainer and, I was just asked to train and then, thought I could do it and told him, hey, I want to start fighting. So.
Well, your career thus far as a professional has been obviously spotless. 9-0 as a professional. You've beaten guys like Antonio McKee. You've beaten like Justin Baseman, who's now in the Bellator 170-pound tournament. I mean, where do you think you stand as far as your career is? I mean, you've been making waves with KO submissions. As far as World Series of Fighting, what are you hoping to continue to do?
I feel like I had a tough career from the start. I don't have a padded record at all. I think that just came from me coming from a small gym, and I think a lot of times I was set up to lose fights. But but I think that helped me that I won those fights because it shot me up a lot quicker than most people that don't have coaches that take their time and have padded records and stuff. So. If you look at my record, it's not padded at all, and I think that's why I made it to the bigger show a lot quicker than other people. So.
Well, it brings us to the section where I get to play the hashtag game. I've been playing it with a few guys, a few hashtags that are big on Twitter and in recent weeks that I liked in particular. Feel free to answer however you like. First hashtag we can't date if. Now, it can be as shallow as you like, or it can be as deep and emotionally bonding as necessary. But if some hot honey comes your way, what's the number one thing that's going to happen that you'll say, no, get out of my face?
If a hot chick comes up to me and we can't date if I'm not like Tito if she's a porn star.
So if she's a porn star, you can't get with her. Is that because of her body of work, or just you couldn't get the memories out of your head?
Well, it's different of getting with her or dating her. She wouldn't be my girlfriend.
Gotcha. So you take her out to dinner once, but you're not going to take her out to dinner twice.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Hashtag number 2. My guilty pleasure is... Now, I'll give you one of mine. I watched this show called Orange is the New Black. I'm kind of addicted because I'm like a Netflix junkie because I don't have time for TV. What do you watch? What do you do? What do you eat? What is something that you kind of keep to yourself as a guilty pleasure that you do for fun?
I guess I'm a video game nerd.
Nice. Oh, what are you playing? Are you playing multiplayer games? Are you playing Madden? I mean, what's your thing?
Oh, Madden, yeah, especially that. I plan on getting that when I go back to Turlock. I was up with some friends and I missed the midnight release of it, and so I tried to go like at 1 o'clock and GameStop was closed. I guess they only stayed open for like 45 minutes, a half an hour, and I tried driving by there like at 1 o'clock and they were closed already, so I missed the midnight viewing on that one.
Well, how difficult is that with your training? I mean, being a video game junkie, you might want to walk by the system a few times and want to play and can't.
Well, especially like when I'm cutting weight or something, I'm just trying to keep my mind off of, eating and, drinking.
That's gotta be hard.
Yeah, and then even on my, even my nightlife, like, when I'm training, I can't go out. My buddies want to all go out to the club or bar scene, and I'm like, I'll just stay home and play MLB or Madden or Uncharted or something like that.
Something cool?
Yeah.
Well, the third final hashtag for you. Hashtag that's going around, my superpower would be, I have mine, I would be able to teleport because I hate traveling. So if I could just get there immediately, boom, I would love it. Your superpower would be what?
I'd be indestructible because then that would.
So you'd be like the prototype video game, right? Where you just have everything coming out of you?
Be indestructible, so that would help out with my MMA career. So.
Well, just a few more things before we let you go. Obviously, with World Series of Fighting, you have a long contract with them. You said you wanted to hopefully get your next bout televised on the NBC. I mean, what do you think you have to do inside the organization to get your name up to where they're going to be putting you on that nationally televised status?
Well, yeah, that's why. I mean, when I was even talking about the Tyson Griffin fight, I just want to, keep improving on my wins, and like I said, I want to have somebody that's coming off of a win, and just whoever they feel that that's the best guy. That if they had that 4-man tournament that they're supposed to be having, and I don't get in it, and just by the time somebody claims that belt, hopefully I have the couple fights there that put me first in line to get that first title defense against him, whoever it is that wins it.
Well, you recently signed with MMA Gold before your World Series deal. I mean, how do you think that has affected your career, and what do you think are some of the positives so far?
Yeah, it's just great because I surrounded myself around good people. That it seems like all they want to do is just help me and fulfill my goals, and and they're just willing to go up and above. Just with Dave, he just does all the little things that I wasn't getting before, and just I don't know. I just feel like I got support. It's like already I've only known him for like 4 months, and I already said, they treat me like family, so.
Well, last thing before we let you go, do you have anything in particular on your mind? Any thoughts about the UFC? Any thoughts about MMA? Any thoughts about, your 49ers? Anything you'd like to get out to the fans?
Well, I think the 49ers are going to win the Super. This is their year, they lost in the
Last
NFC.
year was their year too.
Yeah, well, NFC Championship, then last year the Super Bowl, and now they're going to win it this year. So, yeah, I'm a big football fan, so, yeah, just watch out for the Niners this year. I got my fantasy football team and playing.
All right, who's your number one running back on your fantasy football team?
I went with Doug Martin first.
Oh, that's a good call.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
I mean, I drafted AP because I was that lucky.
Yeah,
but I'm saying Doug Martin.
Round. Yeah, sixth round to get Doug Martin was good. So, and then I went with Frank Gore after that. So,
of course you did. Well, I don't even know why I asked Frank Gore.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any thanks or shout-outs before we let you get back to your day getting fat and playing video games?
Yeah, I'd like to thank just MMA Gold. All my training buddies, Gamma Labs. Just friends and family and everyone at home that's listening. So.
And I want to thank you so much and wish you the best of luck.
All right, thanks for having me.